What's happening, wrestling card collectors, wrestling enthusiasts? Now I sound like Tom from Wrestle Collector Palooza, stuff like that. I love his little song too. Wrestle Palooza. We need a catchy song, man. So we are back with another episode here of WTC TV. It's been a while since we've done something outside of a monthly recap, now known as the 3 Count, with good old Paul from the Wrestling Card Price Guide. We're kind of, God, what has been a year plus now, trying to catch up on what we were started a while back ago, Jamie, talking about the Fleer era of wrestling cards. And today we're going to be talking about Championship Clash. And we brought the one, the only, the original Slam Dancer himself, Chuckster, with us as well. How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Nice to meet you both. Chuck, long time to catch up with you. It's been nice to speak to you for the first time.
It has been. We've done a lot of emails and texts, but the first time we've actually got to talk to each other in person. It's great.
Now, it's fun having you on, Jamie, because if the Fleer era is right up my alley. That whole era from like 98 through about 2005-ish is kind of like my era of like where I really was a serious hardcore collector of things. And then I meet you and I go, wait a second, I got some things to learn about Fleer era stuff where I thought I knew it all. And
well, I do appreciate that, but you're still the god in my eyes around.
No, man, because you've pulled out some amazing gems of things like, wow, like I totally didn't even know that was even in concept, like it was as an idea for stuff, and that was across multiple things with the Fleer product stuff, but probably most with like Championship Clash. I would think there was a lot of cool stuff that was supposed to happen with Championship Clash, but before we get into that kind of stuff, I figure we just kind of do basically a release breakdown. Like overall, like Chuckster, what do you think about the Championship Clash that Fleer put out overall?
I had a lot of pros on this set. The base set especially was broken down into about 80 cards. The first 40 were like action shots, which was okay. But my favorite part of that base set was a 41 through 80, where they did the profile of the champions, which was just kind of like a headshot. And I just love the look on that card. And the little gold logo they put up in the corner with the little championship belt, that just kind of popped that set for me. I mean, I just really enjoyed it. It was a fun set to open. That was back at the time when I was still breaking boxes, and I was actually able to break several of these boxes on my own without having to go out.
Because back then you can actually make a set out of a box almost.
yeah.
Back when I first met you too, I was actually buying. I don't think we really knew who each other were, but I was buying pieces from you on eBay, or I might have been a Yahoo store if I recall. I don't know. Did you have a Yahoo store?
No, what's a funny thing back in those days when they had Yahoo auctions, I used to buy things off Yahoo auctions so cheap because no one was really using it and everybody was using eBay. So I'd buy it off of Yahoo and sell it on eBay.
You go. Yeah,
it's true businessman.
Got a lot of stars in it. It's just got some really good names in it. So I'm real happy with the Championship Clash. It's probably one of my more favorite ones. And it's got some amazing inserts when we get to that part too. It's got some really good stuff.
What about you, Jamie?
Yeah, no, 100% kind of echo you guys. So Clash was one of the sets that we could actually get here in the UK. We didn't have much over here at that time, but we could get Clash, and I not boxes, but we had individual retail packs. And then when I got really heavily into collecting cards again, for you guys and, various other sources, this is the first that I went back to sort of buy and try and get that full base set. And that included buying the inserts off eBay and obviously from American stores and stuff like that. But this is really like my peak fandom as a child growing up. So 2000, 2001 is when it really, skyrocketed for me. So there's a lot of nostalgia around this set for me. And as a result of things that I've bought through buying Championship Clash, I've really become, this is my favorite set of the Fleer era. So it's really quite nice to actually talk about this in more depth, really. So yeah, really pleased to be chatting with you guys about it.
It's just a fun set, capturing a lot of people during that time frame. Obviously, with some legends in there. I agree with both you guys. Never been a big action, which is really weird being a wrestling fan. It's all about action, but I've never really liked most of the action shots. There's always exceptions to the rule, but I really like that whole profile of a champion subset within the base. It's just a fun, cool looking set. A lot of cool poses, especially anybody has a title. It's always fun for me. And I like the fact that you usually even had checklist cards back in those days too, actual checklist cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one had, it was weird because it had your checklist cards, and they had an oversized checklist card as a box topper for your hobby boxes, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was all the memorabilia, the relics and autograph and stuff like that. Correct, Jamie?
A full checklist. That's
Yeah,
correct. Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
you
even,
can
what
see it.
Chuck's got there.
yep, yep.
And they still surface online, like from time to time. People still have them available, and it's quite nice to actually have that piece there, because the box toppers tend to go missing, you know.
They do, and I have a few over here. I've had Nick from Crazy Car Collector in here sorting cars for me for several months, and he's been going through. Goes, oh, I didn't even know they had this one. Like, I never had this. So here, take one, man. I've got a bunch of these checklists from stuff I broke back in the day, because I broke open cases of this stuff, of Fleer era stuff. I got, as Fleer kept putting out stuff over, the couple of years they had the license. Each release I ended up buying more and more of, because I was just getting more and more into it, loving breaking that stuff open, making master sets. So
And I
much
think
fun.
something around that base set as well. So if you look at the numbers at the top, the profile of the champions follow the same pattern as well. So number one of the base card is actually number one of the profile of the champions. So it's kind of a mirror set as well.
It
So
is.
it's quite nice that they marry up, which is quite another nice little key thing with that, really.
Yep. I never noticed that before. That's a good catch.
Nice
That's
little
something
fun fact there. It does. It starts with The Rock, ends with X-Pac, just like the base set does. The number 40. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
so it's quite nice. The perfect 80. It's like a dream little set to have there, you know.
It's
you learn day in this hobby.
that's what I love about it, man. It's like, again, here we are so many years later, and we're learning something new about it. That's awesome. So base set, there we go. And we go right into our first level of chase, which is going to be the females chase set. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts. Sorry, Joe.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You
no,
go ahead.
Say, as we go into a bit more details, we'll talk about the way this set was built. But I think for like a female chase set, they could probably have done a little bit more of this. I think a 9-card chase set is probably not doing the divas any justice within this set.
No.
But nonetheless, it's a chase nonetheless. But again, it's quite sort of, 1 in 7 retail packs. It's still quite a fairly high number for something like this, isn't it? Really, you normally expect 1 to 2 of the first chase set, don't you? Really?
Yeah. I mean, in the hobby, you're getting one every four packs. Yeah, I would have thought that retail would have been a little higher odds on that one. So I shouldn't complain. I mean, it's good. I mean, a collector is going to, get some good hits out of it from a retail box too.
One of the things I liked about the females, that they use the same background in all the cards instead of having different backgrounds and having. But you said they could have used more women. But actually, I'm looking at the checklist here in front of me. Those were really the key women that were on TV all the time at that particular time. I don't think there was really any more that had taken, had grabbed a hold like that.
Well, I
and
think there's a key name missing from this checklist that I'm sure we're going to get into in a minute.
Yeah, and I guess something I would have liked to see, maybe have the action shot and maybe the profile thing, but in the female chase would have been quite nice.
That would have been kind of nice too.
Yes,
but yeah.
And the other thing I like about this is I know 9 cards isn't a lot, but this is just me and my OCD kicking in. I like that it's a 9-card set instead of a 10-card set, because that collector like me puts things in binders and card pages. If you're putting a set together and you have 9 cards, it'll all fit on one page. If you have 10 cards, you're wasting 8 spots on the next page.
Well, hold that thought. All right, just hold that thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go into that thought then, Jamie?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I guess really. So, for people who aren't aware, really, there were quite a few, different versions of this. I think, Tony, if I can share my screen, I think
go for it.
Have to maybe stop. Sorry.
I can stop and let you go ahead and share, sir.
Yeah. So there's quite a, through any process, obviously, you do notice there's quite a few changes that happen within a set. And when I first started getting heavily into collecting sort of this Clash era, on eBay, someone actually had a load of Fleer proofs, which I assume came up in the bankruptcy auction.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I saw it come up, like I paid whatever the price was, I needed to have this story. And again, like there are sort of these things within this set. So I'll just scan through just quickly, but we're talking about the divas obviously at the moment. But something, again, we've noticed, so we had the 9-card set, but this is some of the original art that we expected for that female set.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd ended up with a different Terry set, but there was originally going to be 10 of the female cards. So we should have had 10, and one of them should have been China.
Yep.
But you've got to imagine this timeline then, she was just removed. And instead of replacing, they just cut it, made a 9-card insert set. So very interesting that they didn't decide to replace it with somebody else. But yeah, so we are down what we would have had. So originally it was always going to be a 10-card set. So
lucky for you, Chuckster.
Yeah, I would have cut one of those others to get China in there. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
China was top dog for me. I'll tell you, she was something.
But yeah,
they did do a different Terry, you said?
So yeah, Terry's a different image. That's the only main difference. And everyone else is just flipped. So on the actual release, everyone else is facing the other way ultimately. But there's no other changes from that chase set anyway. So
interesting on that one. Yeah, it was a pretty sexy shot there of Terry.
They're all pretty good shots to be fair.
Yeah.
And then they just going back on the base before we start diving into sort of the insert. So mentioned here around obviously cards that removed. So we should have had a Grandmaster Sexay card in number 14. Again, left the company mid-production. They then went through obviously the process of who they would replace. So at this time, there's this TBD on the Grandmaster Sexy card. And we had the choice of the 3 guys they were going to put in. So we had Val Venus, Mark Henry, who don't appear within the set, but we did go with Tajiri in the end. So Tajiri did take the Grandmaster Sexay spot. So just some cool artwork there. Again, it's just interesting seeing that these guys were probably still on TV quite a bit, but didn't make the cut for the 80-card set ultimately.
Strange that you would have some people, those guys were pretty prominent on TV at that time, and they didn't make the cut.
Yeah,
wow.
especially some of the guys that you had in the set. You kind of think you would have been able to push those guys out. But yeah, nonetheless, Tajiri took Grandmaster Sexay spot. So
what else we got on some of your fun finds here, sir?
So yeah, I guess should we go into the inserts? I'll show you some of the insert side of things.
Let's go on the insert side, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the females there. So some of the relics. So we've mentioned again, obviously things do change. Quite a lot of changes with the private collection set. So I can't remember how many there actually was in the end. I think is there 10? I think this is Chuck's favorite number. Is there 10 originally?
Private collection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 again.
9 again. Okay, so we had some changes with this one. So if you want to double check the checklist here, so originally we had Ivory, who is in the set, but we had no artwork for her here. Then we've got Tori, which I think is in a set as a scarf. I think it was in the end.
Tori has 2 pieces. She has tights and a skirt.
Okay, so we had 2 for Tori. We've got 1 Lita, but we actually had 2.
Yep.
Then we've got Molly Holly, who made a set, and Deborah, who made a set. I think it was a halter top and a jacket. I think it is.
Yes.
Stephanie McMahon, who didn't have a relic and still hasn't to this day had a relic card, but that didn't make the cut.
Did not.
And then lastly, we've got China, should have had a relic, never did, never surfaced, but again was originally supposed to be there. And then we've got Terry and a Jacqueline, which never appeared. That was a card that was canned. And then Tristralis. So somewhere on the line here, we kind of had another Lita put in and another Tori put in, which I guess made up the China and Jacqueline spot.
So here's the funny thing about that, by the way. So
yeah, and Trish actually. Trish didn't make it either. She
didn't make it either. Exactly. So of the 9 slots that were there, you have 1 Deborah, 1 Ivory, 2 Litas, 1 Molly, 1 Terry, and 2 Tories. So you end up having 6 of the 9 only made it. So with the Deborah, you had a skirt. The Ivory had a scarf. Lita had 2 with a t-shirt and a bikini top. Molly Holly had a halter top. Terry had a dress, and then Tori had tights and a skirt. So we never saw Jacqueline. We never saw a Trish Stratus. With the Trish run is the one that's most the weirdest one. That was almost like should have been a gimme. Right. China, we understand that one. What was the other one we had that didn't make the cut? Stephanie, yeah, that one's weird too. So especially we can't get a memorabilia for her, but she had her first official autograph from this.
Yes, exactly. Which is very strange that, how prominent a lot of these divas were in this. I wondered, what that decision was to pull a Stephanie or a Trish from it, because you would imagine that would have been, a big relic to get,
Yeah. To this day it would be.
picture of the Molly Holly card that you have here that you're showing. This is just kind of something from hiding in the file cabinets of my mind, but I think that picture they're using there is the same picture they used in the Ultimate Diva collection.
You're probably right.
You're
Because it was
probably
around
right.
that same time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize that red and white checkered shirt, and for some reason, I think that was her big card in the Ultimate Divas too.
Yep. Which I can't wait to cover that release when we get to that one someday.
And I guess, as I said earlier on, around the images being reversed, you can see from the footnotes from the production guys here that, you know, Lita is backwards, Tori is backwards, Deborah's backwards. So all these images were reversed, and I don't quite know how that happened in the first place. But yeah, the actual cards would have all been facing the other way. So.
Yep. And you know, this is something too that was also available in hobby and retail packs too. And here's where we start having the big, you know, difference in the odds. So you had 1 in 30 hobby packs for the Divas Private Collection, which I believe is how many packs were in this box? I believe it was
Packs in the box, so it's about a box.
Yeah, so it's yeah. So
Okay.
they don't really guarantee you one per box. I know that Topps used to do that all the time too in the autographs. Like they'd put the autographs for like the WCW stuff, you know, 1 in 48 packs or 1 in 46 packs. So it was just beyond the pack count, just in case you didn't pull one, but typically you did pull one. So, and then you go into retail packs, it was 1 in 576 packs for retail. So it was possible, just really hard.
I guess this is a question for you guys, really. So also you've got some rarity around like the bikini top for Lita and things like that. You know, what's your thoughts on how rare they are? Do you think they are quite short print, or do you think they are about the same? I mean, you know, what's your thoughts on those things?
I got to imagine that having a bikini top or a halter top's got to be less material than when you have for a dress or a skirt kind of thing. So I think the one that's going to be hardest on this one for me would probably either be ivory with the scarf. I know it's very feathery. It's like that. You know,
it's very thin. It's like a satin. Yeah.
So I mean, imagine you have a lot of pieces for that. So that could probably be not too hard. I just would think the bikini top would be kind of small.
Yeah, I imagine there aren't many of those around. And again, like the Tory tights, like you've only got a limited supply of that tights, haven't you? So, yeah, just interesting to note that these things, you know, changed quite late in release. Looking at the timestamp of it, so this was released in October, and the date stamp of this proof sheet here is 4th of August. So, you know, we're not that far away from release, and they're still deciding what to do here. You know.
Yeah, and like most stuff with Fleers like that, you're not going to get print runs on this stuff. So on the relic stuff, we'll get into it at some point too about the print runs when it comes to these serial number type cards too, because there's actually differences in that as well. But and moving on to the other relics of this, that's what you have next for the second.
Yeah,
set
so
of
I've
relics?
got some stuff here. So yeah, just some of the back. So again, just to show that these guys, you know, would have had those things in there, but. Just interesting note with the Jacqueline delete period. So, you know, just completely get rid of there. So, so the next relic. So again, there's quite a few of these within the set. There's the main event memorabilia ones. I think, is there 12, Tony? Just double check. I can't remember the exact number. I think it might be 12.
I got 9 of those as well.
9. Okay, they're like 9, don't they?
So, well, because you have the main event memorabilia, which has a lot, but the one that has the most is going to be the Piece of the Champion cards.
Right. Okay. Fine. Yes. So yeah, so the main memorabilia. So again, these are all kind of relics from that first quarter 1 and quarter 2 of 2001. So we had Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. Really, I think is quite overlooked in regards to relics that people may not realize these are relics from such an iconic WrestleMania. You've got a little bit of King of the Ring, and then that's that kind of window that you've got really. So, so again, at the top here, number of cards should have been 20, but we've only ended up with 9. So the original idea was that we would have had 20 and then 1 in 24 packs, which I think stayed around that anyway.
Is this the 20, the number they were hoping for the main event memorabilia, or all memorabilia total?
So numbers, so it was one every 24 packs is what they were looking at. So I don't know what the ratio was in the end.
Well, that was the ratio was that for both main event memorabilia was 1 in 24 packs, and Piece of the Champion was also 1 in 24 packs.
Fine. Okay, so we're about right then. So again, this is just showing that initial proof.
And you had 13. You had 13 pieces of Piece of the Champion versus the 9 for main event memorabilia.
Okay. So yeah, so this one here then. So yeah, the idea was we were going to have a set of 20, didn't get nowhere near that. And this is just the original artwork for Benoit and Jericho, which later changed. It's still Benoit and Jericho, but it's a slightly different image. So I'll just scroll through. So these ones are all going to be fairly familiar. So yeah, Jericho, Benoit, a slight difference there. Angle, Triple H. Then we've got the usual ones that we're all familiar with. Just a little footnote here. This is the final image used, but that main event of the King of the Ring was actually Austin, Benoit, and Jericho, not Angle. Because Angle had already had the street fight and was in the King of the Ring tournament as well. So at some point he should have been in that main event, and they've took him out, obviously. So just an interesting little note there. So that pretty much stayed the same. And again, we've got Stephen Regal instead of William Regal. So that's just a change there. So
Nice.
and this is when we start getting those strange relics come around again. So should have
I
had
love that
two for
one.
China.
Love those.
So
A couple of relic cards that I know because we have them on the checklist that they were available. I have never actually seen them, but most of these have had either ring mats or ring skirts, and there was actually two of them according to our checklist. One of them had a garbage can embedded in it, and the other one had a chair embedded in it. I have never seen that. I don't know if they made it.
Oh yeah, I've owned both of those.
Have you?
Yep.
Okay.
And so I've got them both as well. Yeah.
And that's unique for them to start the trend of embedding other things other than clothing or in a card.
Well, this is really the first, wasn't it? This is the first set to have ring used memorabilia, as opposed to, like you say, the canvases and stuff.
Yep.
Right.
So, I love that China and Ivory one. Both of them. They're both. God, those would have been such cool pieces to have.
Yeah, and it's interesting to know as well. Like we never had a China relic, did we? Until maybe her TNA days. Like during that period, we had nothing at all from her.
Did she even have a relic in the TNA or just the autograph?
Yeah, just the autograph. She had a single autograph with her and Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So again, it's very strange.
Interesting. Yeah. That's just some beautiful pieces. I love the designs of these cards too. It just worked for me. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the nostalgia aspect of it from that time. But this just worked, and it was unique. It hadn't been really done to this level before for wrestling cards. I know that we had the ringside rarity for the Hulk Hogan from the '99 and Boss set, and that was very unique and kind of cool. But Fleer took it up a notch when they got the license for WWF, and adding, like Chuckster said, things beyond just a ring mat or a piece of their shirt. We started having unique things like, again, bikini tops, scarf, trash cans, piece of the chair. They were really taken up a notch like that just nobody did before. Nobody did it especially for wrestling.
Exactly.
I think the interesting thing as well, this is the first time that we actually had actual dated memorabilia from events. Like in the past, yes, we had, the table in WrestleMania, but it was just a piece of table and, bits of canvas from No Mercy. But an actual pinpointed trash can from the street fight between Shane and Kurt Angle, like it's just an iconic match. And to have a piece of that is a real key thing to have. And I think that changed the mold for all these future sets, because that was when that change happened, really, wasn't it?
It was. And, with that in mind, how do you feel about value-wise on these? Do you feel like these are marketed right now? Are they going what they think they should be going for? I personally think they're grossly undervalued.
I do too. I think there's more interest in the Rock and Austin for obvious reasons.
Sure.
I've had the Shane Kurt Angle trash can. I've seen it appear on eBay a few times over the last few years, and it's gone for less than 100. I've recently just moved one on for around that kind of price. Really, I think these should be a lot higher, especially the suspected print run of them.
If you got an extra one of those, I might need one for my Kurt Angle PC.
I'll keep an eye out.
Thanks.
But man, the
image cards too, is it looks like about the era that when WWF was running their pay-per-views, this looks like the kind of promo they would put up on the screen like the week before. This match is going to be on there. This match. Yeah. It would always have the two people facing off on each other on the screen. And these look like the pictures that they would use to promote their pay-per-views too.
That's what I think. That's kind of why I like them so much. Is it does remind me of that, like the face-off, like the promo packages they would put together of, Shane versus, Kurt and stuff like that. It just looks really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is one of the reasons I love this set. There's just so much nostalgia for me around this period of wrestling, and it will never go away from me. So
Odds on these for the main event memorabilia were 1 in 24 packs for hobby and 1 in 144 in retail packs. So still not that bad in the retail. When we get to the piece of the champion, which we'll cover here real quick, it gets a little higher.
yeah, and I think as well with these ones as well that there are very short print runs for these. So the Shane and Kurt Angle is like rumored to be less than 38 print run for that trash can, and I think the Steel Chair is like less than 20, maybe like 16 or 17. I think the print run was for that.
Yeah, which is, again, it's speculative because they didn't really release that information. I
No.
mean, the information that we got on that, I mean, for the Shane eventually garbage can, it's listed as only 38 of those exist. On
Yeah.
the Stone Cold versus Kurt versus, you know, the Steel Chair, 17.
And I think, you know, I've got all the story from beginning to the end of this set, and there are print runs for other things as we'll go through in here a little bit about ideas they had, but there is nothing around the availability of the autographs or availability of relics. There's nothing in it, so I can't confirm that either. So that will have to stay as true history until proven otherwise, really.
Well, I mean, and most of this information came direct from either a sales rep or somebody from Fleer at the time. And that's one of the things that I was really fortunate of at that time, is being able to have a good relationship with certain people at the company. And this is what they knew, but they really couldn't confirm, but they were pretty positive this was like the number of these pieces.
And I think something quite interesting as well around this as well, that some of the memorabilia, I have seen it in the past as well, especially with the like trash can, like maybe a little bit of an autograph on them or something like that. Especially,
I have seen that. I've seen the markings on them before. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe they were supposed to be on like the WWF auction site, or Fleer picked them up from auction, or I don't know how that connects, but there is some correlation between what they had on the auction site, and I've even gone back and looked on the Wayback Machine and tried to see, and there is some pattern there, but whether or not Fleer bought them from auction legitimately or they were given, I don't know.
Good. That's fun.
Yeah.
What do we got on the private piece of the champion? I mean,
so piece of the champion. So again, we're 1 in 24 packs, and we've kind of got the same checklist, but a few changes from the original to the final release. So we do the same thing again where we can work through. So we've got some slightly different artwork for the Rock. There's a different Rock $500 shirt there.
That's nice.
But all of these remain the same. So you know, this is, I guess, Farouk's a good one to talk about here. Something that's quite important for me to notice in here, that he spelt Farouk on this and not Farouk as he was in the final release. So I don't quite know
what
why
happened
they
there.
Because it was correct at some point. So yeah, crazy. But that's a really hard card to find, and I've never seen that in person, and I don't own that card either. That's the one grail that I can't get hold of. How about you guys?
I had one to get one, and I passed on it at the time because I wasn't aware of the scarcity of it at the time, and I thought, oh, I'll get it later. And then I come to find out there's only like 8 of them in existence, and I could kick myself to this day for missing it.
Yeah.
The two big standouts for me on that card, not for being probably one of the more popular pieces in here, is that it not only had the knee brace, which was short printed, it also had the misspelled name on it also. So that really gives it the extra, to me, value.
Which is so weird to me. Like, just Jamie just pointed out that its original concept on it from its draft point, they had it right, and someone goes, nah, I think you got it wrong.
And also, like, there's so many corrections, like in the entire album, there's so many tiny corrections, and I'm amazed that ever got through. But it's very, very peculiar. But yeah, it's there. It is correct somewhere. So.
Yeah. Now, I was fortunate if I did have a Farouk knee brace card. I really wish I would have kept it, but over life, things happen, and I got rid of it a long time ago. But I got that directly from Fleer. Sent that to me directly in a care package.
Oh, wow.
They sent me that, a Hurricane mask card, a Triple H off the mat graph autograph card, and they rubber banded it.
Man, that's crazy.
But smashed in between multiple packs of Ultimate Diva packs. So so it's like little care package, it just said basically from my rep saying, thank you for, your patience over the, blah, blah, blah. This was when they were going under. And so they sent me one. because I never got one when it came out in the market and was able to find one, you know, on eBay or buy one on eBay at the time. So I was gifted one from Fleer at the time. So fortunate to have them, but that's how I got images for them originally.
And it's interesting, the Ultimate Divas collection, there's a dual relic with APA and Jacqueline. And there are actually some of those relics that have the blue relic within them, which is a bit of the Farouk knee brace. So if you can't get the piece of the champion, keep an eye out for them because they're out there as well, which is quite nice to have.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Again, you said already hobby packs 1 in 24, but retail is 1 in 576 packs.
Man, that's a big jump, isn't it?
It is a big jump, especially for back then. I mean, it definitely was. It falls in the line with the same as the Divas private collection with the same exact odds. But there's some good stuff here. I mean, even with the the Kurt Angle gold medal ribbon card, that's another short printed card as well.
Yeah. And again, just some changes. So we're going to start seeing some changes here, roughly. So Spike Dudley, a relic, never had one that was pulled from the set. And then we've got some others on here as well. So we've got Tajiri, didn't have a relic. And then Jerry Lynn, which is a really obscure person to have it within the set, but again, not included in the final release of all the Piece of the Champions.
Yep.
And then again, we've got Albert, which wasn't in the final release, and Perry Saturn, which is again, in some of the earlier notes, there are some emails on here that say that these people weren't either holding titles around this period or hadn't yet even held a title. So I assume this is probably the reason why Albert was pulled, or Jerry Lynn, may have not won the light heavyweight title by this point or something. So
true that.
Yeah, interesting names there though, because they're guys that we never had a relic even post this. Really, it's some interesting names on there anyway.
Yeah, all of these are basically shirts, with the exception of the Farouk knee brace. We have the Kurt Angle gold medal ribbon card. He also had a shirt relic as well, so he had 2 different relics in this set. And I believe he's the only one that had 2 relics in this Piece of the Champion set. It's Kurt Angle. Everybody else was 1. And Scotty 2 Hottie had event worn pants, and then X-Pac had the bandana.
And there's some really cool multicolor relics for this as well. Like, I'm always on the lookout for them. But like Kai and Ty and Jericho, there's a lot of multicolors for this. So yeah, it's nice to see sort of a bit of variety on them, to be honest.
Yeah, I always try to level up when I was collecting at that time. If I got a solid black shirt and I was able to find anything that had like a multicolor on it, the solid black shirt went out the window and I kept the multicolor.
It's really cool.
So then we move right into the Divas private signing cards, which this is going to be interesting to talk about. Well, maybe not as interesting as some of the other stuff, I guess, but we do have one omission from this list, I believe, right, Jamie?
Yeah. So there isn't any artwork change in the story that I've got. There isn't really anything that tells me there is any major changes. I think by this point we can probably establish that China should have had the autograph, and she is on the original list, but didn't have one within the set. But everything else remains the same. So you've got that debut Stephanie McMahon Helmsley, the full autograph, which is still a stunning autograph, and
love it.
Again, it's a piece I need to have. Like, I just haven't got one, but it's my Grail card. Like, everyone talks about these big Grails. That's it for me. But yeah, other than
they
that,
don't come up often. They really don't come up often, and it's her first official autograph card, and it's the only one with that full inscription. I mean, that full name on it too.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing you said earlier on about those main event memorabilia relics, and obviously undervalued. I think the opposite of these. I think these Diva autos have got a lot of traction over the last few years, especially since COVID. The Trish Stratuses, the Litas, the Stephanie McMahon, obviously that price has gone up 3 times what it was. I've seen listed prices in the past. And I think these ones, people are obviously after been on card autos and, early autos of these people, really.
I think that's the 2 key points right there. You just nailed it, because they're on card and they're early autographs. And in some cases, they're first autographs.
Yeah. And it's interesting to note with these as well, whereas Flair were, they hand numbered a lot of stuff, like WrestleMania is all hand numbered to 500.
Yep.
These aren't hand numbered, which is a bit of a strange one. So there's no idea really what these print runs are, and I've got no further evidence of what they would have been either. So yeah, I guess we will never know exactly whether or not Stephanie McMahon there is less of them or not. But
I would probably imagine that would be the case, just based on I guess of who the person is. I would assume. So we're just assuming at that point, but yeah. And then we have a couple that are floating around that are blanks for some reason too.
Yeah, so I don't know, you probably collaborate a bit more about this. So I know Tory listed on your site is deemed as, you know, a card which was blank. I guess she never just returned her cards. I guess she was released around this time and just thought, screw it, I'm not going to bother signing these damn things. I guess that's probably what it come down to.
Yeah, I'm assuming the same thing as when she got released like that. Chuck, so you have some of these cards too, right?
I've got a few, but not very many. The Demons Prize Hunting was hard to get for me, and like Jamie, that Stephanie card is kind of on my bucket list. Also, I have a Stephanie autograph, but it's from one of the later Legend sets that the Topps put out.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
this one here is her first, and I love the full hyphenated last name, the McMahon Elmsley.
Yeah,
And it's nice flowing signature. I mean, it's very readable. Current modern day autographs, I cringe at. You know, these are the kind of autographs that I like.
Yeah.
They had beautiful autographs back then.
yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
So
Yeah,
that
up there, Jamie. There's still some championship clash up, or piece of the champion up there now. Do you have any autographs to put up there?
no. So I've only got, so the only image I've got is the Trish Stratus, and the rest of it has remained the same. So there's nothing exciting there. So China is just TBD. So I've got no other artwork, I'm afraid. Sorry, guys. Sorry,
No,
Chuck.
that's great. But you know, again, there's what was that, Chuck?
You know, card would have looked like no image of that if they'd have
No,
put that.
it's just grey. So a bit like the ivory in that earlier, just a TBD. And in the end, they didn't replace it. They just removed the card from the set ultimately.
Which, for collectors who don't know, that it wouldn't have been her first certified autograph because she had that already with the Comic Images release for SmackDown, I believe. Was it SmackDown or was it? It was SmackDown.
So she had one in Superstars, I think, as well. And I
think,
think,
okay, then Superstars it was.
Superstar.
Yeah, one of those two. So, which, you know, she signed with a ballpoint pen on those. But it still would have been pretty highly collectible if she would have been included in that. I mean, so it's unfortunate.
Would have been in peak China as well, wouldn't it? Really, you know, the
It
book would have just
been.
come out that year. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And I'm sure instead of having that ballpoint pen card from Comic Images like that, it would have been a nice full, you know, Sharpie type or, you know, a Stanlander type pen, you know, really nice looking one. But what could have been.
And there's no, you know, there's no box with these either. So, you know, it's the full half of the entire card is sign-in area. So it's more like a checky, like, you know, the Japanese checkies that you would get.
Yeah.
And it really allows them to have that full auto. And we said about the Stephanie there, Trish Stratus, again, it's a full autograph, even with like hugs and kisses underneath them and stuff. So yeah, they're really nice cards. And a bit like you, Chuck, I've got Molly Holly, Deborah, and an Ivory, like the lower end ones. All the other ones are currently at my price bracket. I haven't got that money floating around to grab them, you know?
No.
No.
I think the ones I have are the ones that I pulled when I was opening boxes. I never went out and bought them, chased them. So,
but these were tough to pull too. So it's funny you say that. I was going to tell you the odds on these ones. These were hobby box exclusives, by the way. So while you could find pretty much everything from this release in both hobby and retail with varying odds, these were hobby box exclusives, and they run about 1 in 120 packs for hobby boxes. Then we got to close this thing out, man. We got to close this out with some cool information you have for us, Jimmy. But let's talk about this redemption card that just never seemed to happen here, which was the full-size championship belt. According to checklist, original sales sheet anyways, say that only 50 of these would be available.
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, from the word get-go in the initial PowerPoint presentations by Flair, it says that there's going to be a full-size replica belt for redemption. It will be via redemption, and there is the imagery of the card which appears on the sell sheet, and we've got a clip of that on here as well, actually, if I share that along a bit. So yeah, again, this is what the card would have been like in packs.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen one pulled post this in redemption. I've never seen this ever. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys have even ever heard of anyone pulling this, whether or not it was ever cancelled, but the line goes dry. Within this entire story, we get to release and there's nothing saying it's cancelled. So I don't know what happens with this in the end.
I remember talking to my Flair rep about it, saying, after months of no one ever pulling anything of this ever, I saw the image. I think I got the image probably from a sales sheet, like what you have probably, or like something like this. And it was a grainy image because it was small. I never had a real large image. I'd love to get a clearer image of it. Maybe I'll have to get that scan from you someday, sir. And then, but my rep said, I don't know if they exist. I think they do. I don't know if they do. And then it got to the point where, well, yeah, they never made them. We never had them. So That's
No.
no explanation as to why. I really like to know the story. Like, what a cool idea to have for as a redemption for wrestling cards back in
Massively.
2001.
Yeah, and massively. And there is an interesting thing around this as well. So I guess you guys have, seen on the chat list, there's no superstar autographs within this set. And I've heard when you spoke to the guy at Comic Images around the numbers. So there should have been 10,000 superstar autos within this set released, but they weren't on card. They were going to be released as autographed mini belts. So there is a full list here of all the mini belts that should have been released and the print runs for them as well. So we should have had guys like The Rock with 100 mini belts autographs, Austin, Al Snow.
Oh my God.
So there's a massive list of things here, but there's a full checklist of who should have had, multiple mini belts that you could have had on redemption. But again, all the way down, and we would have had up to 10,000, and they were never made it past this point. So this is what's this 7th of May. So this is quite early on in development, but yeah. And again, there's no superstar autographs in this set at all, is there? So
no.
But there's some interesting names in here.
You and I will be talking off air, I'm sure. We get some information from you, but
I mean, there are some names on here as well. Shane McMahon, 50 of each, hardcore and European. Shane McMahon, so that would have been his first autographed item within the set. Another Stephanie McMahon, 100. Yeah, a lot of big names. So a very interesting note that never, and I guess that might just be a logistics nightmare to try and get these mailed out.
I'm sure, but this just further proves to me in what I believe with the Fleer era products, and that is Fleer era products for wrestling was way ahead of its time. It set the standard that I think every license holder since then has had to live up to in some way, because they did things that were never done before in our niche of the hobby of wrestling cards. Yes, Comic Images did some stuff for their No Mercy set for, ring gear kind of stuff, or ring worn stuff. They did stuff with autographs. Topps did a ton of that stuff with WCW, and then introduced the Hogan ringside rares we talked about before, but never to this level before.
No,
where we've
never.
seen, we're talking all of Fleer era stuff, everything from the beginning of WrestleMania all the way to the Divine Divas 2000, or Divas 2005. It was just it is just incredible for us as wrestling card collectors. It was like being in heaven, because it was just in collecting, because things weren't extremely difficult to come by. There's definitely a level of chase to go after. Championship Clash really made it fun and exciting to go after certain relics, autographs, things like that. No Kiss cards in this release, which was nice, little separation for a bit. But to me, that's what made this whole era of cards, and especially Championship Clash, very fun, because of the innovation they were putting into wrestling cards that had never been done before.
100%. I kind of feel this set as well, that Fleer were at such a stride at this point. Like, they'd had Roy's War, they had WrestleMania, they kind of dabbled with a few things, but this is where they're really going full throttle and really trying to become that leader with wrestling cards. And it's a testament to where they were, but sadly to see where they did go in future years as well. Going to the issues they had, and autographs going on to cut autos and stuff. Yeah, what could have been, like, this could have been an iconic set going forward. And it's a really, really interesting set, and it's been great going through it in more detail. You guys today.
Well, you showing off these little mini belt things, and that whole list, which again, we got to talk about that. That's got to be added to the checklist of some kind of, what could have been. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a Rock autograph mini belt? A Stone Cold autograph mini belt? I mean, that would have been insanely popular and huge right now.
Yeah. And again, like, the numbers of them as well, compared to even some of these sort of smaller, acts, like, Rock and Austin having 100 each, that's quite a big number for those guys to be signing that, when you've got other guys signing around that kind of amount, of nowhere near the stature of those guys,
Yeah, incredible, man. Incredible.
Yeah, mini belt cards didn't really take off until about 2014 in Topps, when they started doing those little champion belts in their insert sets. And
yeah,
and they were pretty high numbers, except for about six or seven of them, there was like limited to 100, and then the rest had high numbers. I mean, you could get them all over the place, but they weren't autographed. So, you know, that's.
I think the difference with this though as well, Chuck, these are the actual mini belts that you could get from, you know, the actual wrestling superstore, not actually a card, but the actual mini belt, which is something
Oh,
even more crazy, you know.
that's held in the card. I thought you meant the embedded belt.
No, these are actual mini belts they were trying to actually sell. I think they're like the wristwatch size, weren't they, when they first come out? Like the little ones.
Yeah.
Just
barely bigger than not even. I don't think you can even fit them on an action figure. Like they were too big for an action figure.
Yeah, I remember them being obviously fairly well priced as well, but yeah, something that we never saw surface ever again. So yeah, a real cool nugget to know that this could have been.
Yep.
In a hobby box or a retail box, right? They would have been a redemption.
There would have been a redemption. Yeah,
so redemption.
It's listed in all the paperwork as a redemption. So they would have just had the redemption card, or we would have got maybe one at random or something, like you would have done the Superstars set, like a random auto. I guess you would have had the same type of deal.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, interesting though. Really interesting.
Yeah, that's great stuff here, man. Anything of note that to close this out? It's like that. I know that we have they did a one-sided sales sheet, prior distributions like that. There were some difference. There were some notable differences to what was on the sales sheet and what actually got released too, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, so there's some minor details. Again, a bit like we had with the like Roy's War stuff and things like that. So if you look at the sort of smaller print of things, they do say that it's going to be turnbuckle relics and like other things like that, which we never got. Ring skirts made it, ring canvas made it, and then ring used props obviously made it. But yeah, other than that, pretty much everything else remained the same, really. There isn't anything that I'm pretty aware of that majorly changed. Everything looks pretty good. And I think the main thing that you note on there is that poster, you've got the redemption belt right in the bottom corner. And that would have been in shop windows and people never got them.
Yeah. You know what? I forgot. I've got sell sheets for that. I should probably just scan that and use a better image. There you go.
There we go.
Yep.
There you go.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, this was a fun set, man. I really enjoy covering all the Fleer era type stuff. I said at the beginning of this episode that this was kind of my wheelhouse era of that time frame. So it's always fun. And then again, talking to guys like you, Jamie, who've really dove in real deep into stuff and managed to pick up some great history on this product specifically. I learned stuff. It's still learning stuff. That's what's so cool about this hobby, is always learning stuff, no matter how much and how long you've been in this game. You're still learning all the time, which is this is fun for me.
And I think that's exactly it. And there is a bit around like the OCD side of things as well. I do fear about how much of this stuff has been lost forever. Obviously, the Fleer bankruptcy auctions, they just sold off lots of stuff. I assume that they just done, lot 2, lot 3, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These binders, there's so much history around how these sets were built. And for someone who loves like the hobby and getting into the hobby and how things work within the hobby, this is material that, is invaluable, for the hobby, really. So, I'm glad to be able to now share it, because I've been wanting to sort of get this out there a bit more for a long, long time. So thank you.
And I hope people that end up listening or watching this like that can have a greater appreciation for this release specifically. And I'm wondering if it's going to affect anybody going forward and how they're buying and how much they're paying on some of this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I think some of the stuff, like we said before, deserves a bit more cred than it actually gets. So yeah, it's all good.
Any final thoughts, Chuckster?
I just think this is probably one of between this one and the Royal Rumble is probably the two biggest Fleer sets in my collection that have more of a following than any of the other sets. These two are just the sets that people want, and they have the unique, different relics in it that have never been seen before or since. So I think it's a great set, and I have learned so much from you, Jamie, today about those belts, and not even catching that little thing you told me about the main base checklist about the 1 through 40 being the same cards as the 41 through 80. I thought that was pretty cool. So just little things like that. I love learning, just little pieces of history and you've really covered a lot. Yeah, I thought I knew a lot about this set, but it turns out I didn't hardly know anything. You've really laid it out, and I really appreciate your
You and me
research.
both, buddy. You and me both.
Guys, I'll tell you what, there is so much here. We could go on another episode about the some of the. I could talk about this set all day. So if we ever want to just talk about this, I'm more than welcome to come and chat again about it.
We'll just have a time where we're not even recording, just shooting the shit, talking about this process. But wait till we start talking about All Access. There's another home run set right there, I think, too.
Yeah,
but,
100. Yeah,
especially with the most recent sale that happened. So, but guys, I really appreciate you, especially Jamie, of course, the time difference here, you all the way over across the phone.
My pleasure.
And it's taking the time and talking about this. I know we've been wanting to do this for quite some time, and I'm happy to finally get this one done. And I look forward to getting some other ones. I know we've got a lot of other FLIR stuff we want to cover over some time here. So let's not make another 1.5 years, please, sir.
No, please, 100%.
Anybody, where can they find you, Jamie, if they want some more information about this, or reach out to say, hey, I have this piece, can you tell me more about it? Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me over Twitter. So I'm at Jamie Stocker on Twitter, and most people, within the scene kind of follow me. So you'll probably find me on there easy. But if you want to also find me, I'm part of the Squared Circle Relics podcast over here in the UK. So find us on Instagram and that, and just reach out to me on there. I'm always open to chat cards with anybody who wants to chat. So
what about you, Chuckster?
Find me on Twitter, or as it's known now over here as X.
Yeah.
X, yeah.
as Chuckster. And that's pretty much the only place I hang out these days. So reach out if you got any questions. I'd be glad to do what I can to help you.
Excellent. And for us guys, you can find us on WrestlingTradingCards.com. Over 20 years of providing you checklist information on the wonderful hobby of wrestling cards. You can find all of our social media handles on the bottom of every single page. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. If we don't know, we'll redirect you to someone like Jamie who does know. And get you hopefully on the path of better collecting, guys. And I really appreciate you guys spending some time with us talking about this today.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.
Take care, guys. All right.
All right, guys. We're out.